pro permadeath. Yes, actually, I kind of, with the amount that we're contributing, you'd think permadeath would be it. I am actually pro permadeath myself. It makes the game more real in a sense.
Well, that tied up for me. I'd never leave the house.
That's right, someone who doesn't like. Well, that's why you have children.
What? This took a whole different turn.
Holt likes it. Bigger graveyards. More wisps.
And I'd be crying all the time.
I have some awesome screenshots. All right, now we're having a little bit of conversation. For those of you who can't really see the text flying by, we're talking about permadeath, which eh, that is basically if your toon or your avatar dies in the game, you cannot bring it back. You still have your account, and I would suspect that you would still have your stuff. You just create another character to inherit it, which means skills and everything else need to be rebuilt. Now, I don't know how the skills will advance because right now we're all like uber characters, just no PvP or PvE. Yeah, this has been, I've seen some of the talk, no inheriting.
That's kind of radical, in my opinion. I mean, why would anybody want to play like that? I don't understand.
Oh, he's got a point. If permadeath was the rule, you would not have that many PKers running around. Yeah, see, there's all kinds of different ways that permadeath could be done. I personally like permadeath. It adds to the RP. It makes people more attached to their avatars. So, it's if this were skill based, I could see it kind of working. Like I mentioned in the chat, if this were skill based, then it's you die, and if you create a new tune to basically inherit everything, well, they're not going to have the same skill set, but it does allow the player to experience more of the game. So you could have a tune or an avatar that you get tired of commit suicide by jumping off a parapet, create a new tune who gets all your stuff, but can't use all of that stuff because it doesn't have the skill to use it. It has to learn the skill or sell it all off, and learn a new skill. I mean, it's there's give and takes to the whole thing.
Well, my issue with that, I guess, really, not being very skilled ever, is that I might have 3 or 4 hours a week that I can for playing. Period. And so, if I spend 3 or 4 hours a week and build up a skill, and then the following week I get killed, I got to start all over again. It could take years to get even one skill where it's a usable skill. So I could see how it might be more of a challenge and applicable to someone that plays more. Am I thinking crazy here? I mean, I don't know. It just seems really radical to me from my perspective as someone who can only contribute, or only allow 2, 4, 5 hours at the maximum a week, if that, to play.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it's my blacksmith. It took me in UO almost 5 years because I was, to GM, and that's to GM. That's before Power Scrolls. It took me 5 years to GM blacksmithing because I was very limited on the time that I was playing. That was before I really got into running guilds and everything else. It took me 5 years to GM blacksmithing, whereas now in UO people pay someone to work their skills for them, or they buy an advanced character, which I think totally sucks. But that's just me. I just
I agree. I remember, I can remember the exact night, which was about a year and a half after I started playing, that I was making spell books and I made enough scrolls to hit GM scribe. I remember the evening that it happened, and that was like 1999 sometime. And I mean, here it is all these years later, and it was a big deal because it was my first GM skill. And that took a long time. So if that's obviously not a combat skill, but it meant something.
yeah, oh, believe me, when I hit black GM on my blacksmith, I threw a party. I went to the WBB and I gave people armor. Just because I could. I was a GM. Yay! And then they came out with Power Scrolls. I was like, oh, great.
Start all over again. I know.
And then, I mean, Minerva was my blacksmith, and she was my first character on Napa, which is my home shard now. Kurthag was at the time on Atlantic as a tailor slash running away from PKer type of character. Um, and I spent a lot of time more in the blacksmithing trade with Minerva. So Minerva was my first character that I actually GM'd with, and that was in 2002. That was 5 years of playing UO, and it took me 5 years to GM blacksmithing. People say, "Oh, that's pathetic." It's like, no, it's not. It's called reality and having a job. Oh, don't even start getting into teleporters, please. Oh, well, girl, you and I were going to be RPing bitches excuse me, RPing ladies when we get it's I'm nowhere near in character.
You mean, what do you mean? Now or
Now,
before?
I'm nowhere near in character right now.
Oh, me either. I would never
Yeah.
say the things that I'm saying. I wouldn't even mention the discussion of a form in the game.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mention my real life in the game. I would say something like, in another world, or when I'm not in Britannia, something like that.
Yeah. I remember, I mean, my heaviest RP was done in UO, and it was back in, I gotta say, from 2000 to about 2005. I was always in character. Always.